So, Tusk, huh? Yeah, this is, in my opinion, the worst stand design in the entire game. Everybody's familiar with this big pink refrigerator. It's got a ton of projectiles, an absurdly fast grab/kick barrage, and the notorious funny beatdown. Unfortunately, while Tusk is definitely one of the most interesting stands in JoJo's, its representation in YBA is pretty terrible. Stick around, because I'm here to tell you exactly why that is. I think the best way to start with Tusk is the kit itself, because it'd be wrong for me to continue this video without guaranteeing to myself that the viewer is fully aware of what Tusk Act 4 can do. It has a fast stand speed, a fairly high destructive power, and unlike Acts 1 through 3, has access to a barrage. It also has the infinite rotation passive that makes it bypass damage reflection attacks, being Love Train, Your Own Shadow, and Gently Weeps. This upgrade also gives the user 3 seconds of time stop resist that can be further upgraded to 5 seconds. In terms of moves, Tusk has access to nail bullets, in which you shoot a volley of 3 blockable projectiles. Note that all of the nail projectiles commonly get caught midair and don't connect, even if they're aimed properly. This makes them very ineffective at targeting long-ranged enemies. It's also worth noting that despite the combo is rare to see, having spin mastery with spin charge will massively increase your stand's projectile damage. Next up is Golden Rectangle Nail, a block-piercing knockdown projectile. It true combos out of regular nail bullets as well as wormhole nails. Wormhole nails allows you to hover your cursor over a target and redirect each missed nail bullet onto them, as well as creating 2 more. This move true combos into every other move, including all previously mentioned moves and the 2 coming up. This makes it one of the best combo extenders in the entire game. Keep in mind that the move can very easily be blocked or countered, so it does involve a bit of risk. Wormhole Uppercut, after a very short windup, teleports you below the nearest player and knocks them into a grab in which they're hit for 35 or so damage. This move is blockable, but due to its shorter windup, is fairly difficult to react to unless you're expecting it. It's very similar in counterplay to Skull Crusher. As long as you know it's coming, it's fine. The problem is that it combos out of Wormhole Nail. If a full destructive power Tusk lands a single Wormhole Nail on you, you are guaranteed to take at least 89.4 damage. Remember, the max health of a player is 205. Mind you, that is ignoring damage resistances from specs, but still, one projectile true comboing into nearly 90 damage makes 0 sense, especially when that projectile aims itself. Tusk's final offensive move is the beatdown, which lasts a staggering 23 seconds, despite it being the weakest one in the entire game. With high enough regen, this move effectively allows you to heal more than your dedicated healing move. It also lasts longer than the real Tusk beatdown in the actual JoJo fighting game. Why? Who knows? Just note, this also is true out of Wormhole Nail, because of course it is. Moving out of strictly offensive moves, we have Nail Glide and Herbal Tea. Nail Glide is the strongest non-time skip mobility tool in the entire game, granting you ice skating levels of speed while also being able to use moves. Combine this with the spec combo starters, and it's easy to see why good Tusk players are so dominant right now. Herbal Tea also exists, being the worst heal in the entire game. It heals the least, has the most wind-up and end lag, slows you down the most, and costs the most skill points. Don't buy this move. Buying regen passive is literally better. Herbal Tea allows you to heal 30.5 health every 22 seconds, while regen upgrades 1 through 6 will cost 2 points less and heal for 35% more completely passively. Please just pause during the time you'd be drinking. Now that you know the kit we're working with, let's get into the problems. Starting off with a criticism of how Tusk works in-game, it shouldn't. Act 4 is not a permanent upgrade to Johnny's stand, and requires him to utilize the rotational power of a horse to temporarily grant himself infinite rotation. It's also worth noting that Johnny, like Koichi, still has access to Acts 2 and 3 after obtaining Act 4. Act 2 is the best at firing the nail projectiles, Act 3 is the best at making wormholes, and Act 4 gives him close range capabilities as well as the infinite rotation. For whatever reason, YBA gave all of that to Act 4 with no ways to quickly switch between them. Now on to time stop resist. In high voltage, the amount Tusk can move in Diego's time stop is very minimal. At most, Tusk twitches one of its fingers and later manages to close its arms on Diego's head. I'm not even sure Johnny himself is capable of perceiving what happens in stop time, considering he never reacts to anything that happens to him during stop time. So yeah, this is another situation like Sea Moon, where a slight twitch during time stop suddenly means they have several seconds of full body movement. Honestly, Tusk does not need time stop resistance. It's already good enough at dealing with them since it can cancel them with projectiles. Problems with the moveset are also pretty glaring. Tusk, what is supposed to be the epitome of a skill within the JoJo series, is one of the easiest stands to play in the entire game. It can resummon missed projectiles, and one of its best moves aims itself. This is just a really poor representation of Tusk as well. The nails are basic, and don't require you to refill them using the tea, which is a core part of how Tusk works after Act 1. It's the basis of his moveset in All-Star Battle R. Regarding balance, I've kinda said everything I needed to say in the moveset segment. Wormhole nails are an insane combo extender, regular nails work great as an M1 trade winner and go perfectly with the spec moves, and Uppercut does way too much damage for how easy it is to confirm. Because of the insane amount of knockdowns, Pluck's Unsealed Steel move can be used to extend combos far further than ever intended. Honestly, all of YBA's current Tusk is just guaranteed to be unbalanced, either terrible or very strong. But I feel like that's enough complaining. Time to suggest stuff to fix it. Tusk is definitely in need of an overhaul, especially how in the different acts are treated. Before Tusk was removed from AUT, it was actually really interesting gameplay-wise. You would use open and closed brackets to swap between the acts, with each of them having their own moves. While I do think the feature wasn't used very well, as Act 4 was still better most of the time, it was definitely a lot better than what YBA does currently. Focus on giving Act 2 most of the projectiles, allowing it to be the act for zoning out your enemies while you wait to charge your more powerful stuff. Maybe give it specific synergies with Spin. Act 3 should be the mid-range disjoint type character. Stuff that lets you do a bunch of mix-ups, maybe some attacks that come from different directions. Finally, remove the projectiles from Act 4 and focus on making it more of a rushdown character that encourages you to get in the enemy's face. Then rework the beatdown into being started by a projectile like it is in the official games and AUT, but give it a bit of wind-up, kinda like KCR's Dimensional Slash. Then to cap off the rework, allow swapping between Acts 2 and 3 through some sort of toggle and make Act 4 an awakening. That's right, Act 4 in my hypothetical rework is an awakening. Let me suggest a moveset here. Do note, this will be heavily based on All-Star Battle, because that is the most recent JoJo fighting game. It's a well of great stand ideas that I wish Uzu paid more attention to. It seems like recently Paragon's been taking notes from it a bit, since his suggested moveset for William Zappelli Hamon is pretty faithful to what Will actually does in-game. Starting with Act 1, I think obtaining it through the left arm makes a whole lot more sense. Act 1 is considered the guardian of that part, so I don't see why it wouldn't be in-game as well. The moveset should be regular nail bullets, the focused shot, nail slash, and a new dash move to replace the nail glide. This would be a slow armored dash that ignores block and ragdolls on hit. Act 1 would not have Herbal Tea because there's no need for it. After all, Herbal Tea won't be a healing move, it's a reload. Act 2 should be obtained by fully charging Spin with Spin Mastery at max level while having Act 1 equipped. It would have the ability to tap fire a golden rectangle nail by pressing E, kinda like Sex Pistols. It would also have nail slash and the dash move from Act 1. The major change to this act is the removal of Wormhole Nail in favor of making nail shots no longer shoot in a volley of 3. You would tap the button for each nail you wish to fire at the cost of now having to manage a nail counter. Drinking Herbal Tea, obviously on a reduced cooldown, would fill your 10 nails, allowing you to continue firing. Each golden nail would act similar to what a regular nail does now, but if not blocked, it would leave a small hole on the target's avatar that could be activated upon pressing a key, damaging them again but not stunning. These holes would naturally disappear after about 8 seconds, preventing Tusk from stacking holes and one-shotting. You would also have focused Golden Nail, what the current Golden Nail is in-game, just to prevent Acts 2 and 3 from getting completely shut down by block. Act 3 could keep its current obtainment method, but act a bit more similar to Go Beyond. You would keep Act 2 upon evolving, but gain the ability to toggle between the two. Each act of Tusk, from 2 to 4, would branch off from the center of the skill tree, preventing you from needing to buy upgrades for an act you don't plan to use. Act 3 could have the same projectile moves as Act 2, being Golden Nail and Focused Golden Nail, but they would have higher wind-up to compensate for the addition of the wormholes. It would have a heavily reworked wormhole uppercut, more in line with Zipper Flank, but projectiles instead of punches. It would also have the ability to pilot a wormhole with your arm inside, allowing you to shoot at your opponent from odd angles and mix them up by having them focus on a volley coming from one direction before unsummoning the wormhole and hitting them with something else. The pilot would end once the nails had been fired, returning you to your camera with enough time to capitalize on your now stunned opponent. Oh, and Act 3 would keep the nail slash and dash moves of the other two acts. Act 4 is really interesting, because the obtainment doesn't really make sense for a game like YBA. It was something obtained through the mastery of a skill and not much else. I suppose it could be another soft and wet type situation where it's a special NPC quest. How about you get a quest to get prize money in SBR so you can give it to Gyro? Then once you give him the prize money with Spin in Act 3, he teaches you how to master the horse's spin. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. Do that, and then it unlocks the Act 4 branch of your skill tree. Now I think my idea of Tusk Act 4 might upset some people. It's a temporary boost, just as Araki intended. It would be an awakening that starts with a short wind-up in which you launch yourself into the air, possibly by slow dancing. You would be able to fire the beatdown well in the air from this awakening, and it would automatically aim towards the closest player when done this way. The projectile would be parryable but ignore block. You know, like a beatdown. Then, for the next 45 seconds or so, you can use Act 4. I imagine it would have a handful of close-range, high-pressure moves, similar to what other close-range stands offer, but with a unique twist. I think giving it a grab is a good idea to replace the wormhole uppercut. On top of that, maybe give it a multi-shot, like, ranged barrage, since that's a thing it has in All-Star Battle. It should also have a damage over time passive on its M1s to represent the infinite rotation spinning their body. Keeping the infinite rotation passive minus the time stop is a-okay by me. It's pretty representative of the ability. Then, when you run out of duration, you're reverted back to Act 3. Oh, and here's a skill tree for the rework as a whole. Feel free to pause and take a look. That's what I got. Agree? Disagree? Feel free to let me know. My DMs are open at Alexiotron, and my comments have no restrictions. If you want to call me a stupid piece of shit for not understanding the masterful game design of YBA's current Tusk, I'm all ears. I find balanced discussion to be one of the only interesting parts about YBA right now, considering it's in such a sorry state at the moment. You know it's bad when the game that effectively shot itself in the foot 9 months ago has maintained a higher concurrent player count than you for the last month and a half. I feel like the changes I've suggested would help make Tusk something more unique and less irritating conceptually. I'm not sure why I expect something like that to happen though, now, considering Pluck is just a League of Legends character, and boxing exists despite both moves that actually reference JoJo's having since been removed. It's clear that lore accuracy is not a focus at the moment, and that's something you YBA fans are going to have to deal with. For the record, by the way, finding enough versus Tusk gameplay for the background footage took about 73 matches, back-to-back over the course of 6 hours. That is the least fun I have ever had playing a video game, and if something like that happens again, I'm going to ignore the poll results and do something less painful. In terms of channel stuff, Terraria Episode 2 no longer exists, so if we do make a next one, it'll be Episode 3. Me and Scott tried to record it, but it vanished off of my hard drive, so that sucks. The next YBA video will likely be on Red Hot Chili Pepper, followed by an in-depth look on AUT and its dramatic spiral into bandit-beating mediocrity. Do know that with school starting up, I will be focusing on that more than videos, so expect things to slow down a bit in the coming months. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm gonna head out. See ya!